The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Millions of people are affected by the Para-X bug.
I realize that it is something that will stay with me for the rest of my life and long into the afterlife as well.
If you have the Para-X bug, there is hope.
With a nightly visit to the Para-X website and intensive past life regression therapy, I can control it.
Even with the Para-X bug, I can still lead an active life of radio show hosting, paranormal investigating, evidence checking, attending conferences, book writing, keeping up with the latest technology, and still keep my 40-hour-a-week day job.
If you think that you have the Para-X bug or know someone who might, visit para-x.com and remember, you are not alone.
I am not alone.
I
am not alone.
The Para-X bug may cause the urge to chase shadow people, visit exotic haunted locations, adopt a pukwudgie, or spend all of your time trying to figure out the laws and principles of paranormal investigation. Listening to Para-X may increase these effects.
Sudden visions of full-body apparitions, or feeling the covers being pulled off you in the middle of the night by unseen hands, may also be signs of exposure to the Para-X bug.
The use of Para-X may be habit-forming, and an overwhelming desire to provoke spirits may be a serious side effect. If these symptoms last more than 4 hours, you should quickly consult a trusted witch and have her cast a "What the hell are you thinking?" spell on you. If symptoms persist, please contact the Para-X Radio Network Homeland Security Team for further instructions.
The Para-X bug may cause urges for late-night speaking with spirits and ghosts. Listening to Para-X may increase these effects. Overwhelming desire to try provoking a spirit may be a serious side effect. Those with Para-X bug effects lasting more than 4 hours should consult Para-X or see a professional. Sudden outbursts at the mention of orbs may be a sign of exposure to the Para-X bug. Use of Para-X may be habit-forming. Use caution when engaging in Para-X chat.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para-X.
Yes! I found it at last! Marla's Sacred Cauldron. This is the legendary artifact that has been whispered about in hushed tones for hundreds of years, and now it's mine! All
mine! Who dares defile the sanctity of my castle walls? Step away from the cauldron, you impertinent, muddy-mettled maltworm.
Never! I've spent half my lifetime trying to discover your age-old secret of stirring the cauldron.
Oh, for Merlin's sake, that's no deep, dark secret. Just tune into the Para-X Radio Network Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern for more cauldron stirring than you can shake a wand at.
Oh, well, in that case, I guess I don't need to take up any more of your time, so I guess I'll be going.
Not just yet. We've got a little unfinished business to take care of.
That's Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Para-X Radio Network.
35 miles east of Venus, or quite possibly closer, like along the Balcones fault line in South Texas, or maybe even the Eagle Ford Triangle. It's the Basement Files with Jenna Valadez. There have been great combinations. Mac and cheese, peanut butter and jelly, peaches and herb, milk and cookies, night and day. And now, The Basement Files on Para X Radio.
Welcome to The Basement Files. I'm Jenna Valadez. Tonight, I'm talking to author James Baxter. Welcome to the show, James.
Thanks for having me on.
So, I understand you've written 7 books.
Yes. Well, actually, a couple of them are from my sports career, and they're sports books. But the horror fiction is something I've been writing for many years. And I actually published my first novel. Actually co-authored it back in '95. It was called The Revelation, and started a sports company at about the same time, and it kind of took off and was pretty successful, and I had to put my writing career on the back burner. And in 2015, I decided that I wanted to get back into writing. That's what I had always wanted to do, and so I picked that career back up.
Wow, that's awesome. So how long have you been writing then?
I started writing when I was in 7th, 8th grade. Around that time period, I started. I'll tell you what got me started was I read The Exorcist, and back when it first came out, and scared the hell out of me. And I liked that exhilarating feeling and wanted to be able to do that. And I started reading Edgar Allan Poe, and so I read all of Poe, and I found another author that I liked, and Guy Maupassant, a French writer that was very similar to Poe, and around the same time period. Mm-hmm. And those two guys really are the ones that got me hooked. That got me, kind of. And if I had to pinpoint one particular writing, I would probably say The Fall of the House of Usher was probably one. Telltale Heart was another one that really got me hooked on writing those type of stories.
Now, I know 3 of your books that I saw through Amazon, because you are on Amazon. I saw that you have some paranormal investigation history behind it. Did that push you into that kind of field? No, I've always been attracted to that field. I don't think that's why I write the things I write. The Haunting series was something that I've been sitting on for a couple of years, and I actually got the idea for The Hauntings watching another movie. I was watching actually the remake of the Poltergeist movie, mm-hmm. and the character that was in the movie that was the ghost hunter, so to speak. Kind of gave me the idea for Hauntings. I thought, how cool would it be to take a guy who was involved with, basically a demon hunter, and follow him and follow his career and go into his background and how he came into that career and what drives him and what makes him do the things he do. And so I developed this character, Ezra Labar, who's a very interesting character, and kind of ran with it. And Hauntings is going to be at least a 6-book series. I've already got the synopsis for at least 6 books in that series, and who knows, how far it'll go. Wow. Yeah, I read a couple of excerpts from there, and it was very, very fascinating. Now, did you write any of your personal experience? I'm assuming you went on investigations.
I've had some paranormal experience in my lifetime. In fact, I wrote a short story, a couple of years ago for Amazing Paranormal Encounters, which is put out by Stallion Books, and I think it was volume 2 that I was in, but it was called The White Demon, and that particular story actually goes into some experiences I had as a child. So yes, in a way, some of the stuff in Hauntings does come from past experience, and some of it's just from research. It's very interesting to read the Haunting series, but something that's also interesting that I'm doing that I haven't seen anyone else do and it's to bring these characters to life is after I wrote Hauntings 1, I wrote a book that I call Hauntings 1.5, and it's Interview with Exorcist. And basically what it is it's a transcript interview with Ezra Labar, with the main character. and it kind of reflects on the case that was in the Hauntings 1 book. And it gives a lot of good information. If you read the interview, it reads like a real interview, and it goes into exorcism, the rites, and basically what happens in an exorcism, and basically how Ezra Labar came about doing it, and it focuses on that case too. So if there were any questions that were raised during the book, they're answered in Interview with the Exorcist.
I saw that was interesting, and I saw how it started to read like an actual interview. Do you see yourself in your characters when you write?
I guess Ezra Labar and the priest, Father Michael Thomas, both have characteristics of myself. You know, I've kind of put characteristics of myself in each of those characters. They're kind of a blend. I guess if you took those two characters and put them together, you would have you would basically have my personality.
Really? That's interesting. I did read The Kiss, the short stories that you have, the Simply Horror Steps of Nightmares. The Kiss was an interesting story. I do want to talk about that more in depth in a little bit, but on your first hauntings, and of course with the Interview with the Exorcist. Now, on a personal level, have you ever went through an exorcism or been investigating in an exorcism demon type case?
I have been involved in an exorcism and been involved in up close and personal experience with that side, and it's not something that it's something I may write about one day, but it's certainly, you know, once, I don't know if you ever have, but once you experience something like that, it's certainly not something that you take lightly, and very terrifying experience, and really what got me doing so much in-depth research on it.
So I know you write other books with sports, and you said you started a sports company?
Yeah, I was a coach, a football coach, and I had, with my sports company that I started back in the 90s, became a national recruiting analyst for Rivals and Yahoo Sports, and have evaluated football players for colleges, and have done combine camps and things like that over the years. So the books that I wrote focused on that, and basically I wrote a book called The Book on Evaluating Football Players, and it basically goes into all the evaluation points that we look at and what college coaches look at when they're looking for prospects. So something totally outside the realm of the horror fiction world. I do love the sports. Obviously, it was a career and a career I enjoyed. I did a lot of writing in the sports industry. I wrote for Athlon and Sporting News and a lot of those magazines, but and owned my own publication. But obviously, my passion is in horror fiction.
And I noticed that you also wrote another book called Mad Love, which is a total different. Go on. Yeah,
Mad Love is a journey into some poetry. I never wrote poetry until a couple of years ago. Kind of enjoyed writing the free verse and prose. And a lot of it is, you know, it's, if you've looked at any of it, it's very romantic. It's erotic. A lot of it's erotic, and it was something that I wanted to explore. And it's actually, I've actually got enough material that actually Mad Love 2 is going to be coming out very soon. It's actually already done.
Wow.
It's just not formatted, but that'll be coming out. And it actually was a pretty good seller. You know, did real well with it. So it's, you know, and it's a market that I've had an idea for a tragic romance story, which is totally out of the realm of what I write.
Right.
But, you know, it's something I was telling a friend of mine, you know, he asked me, so why romance? What are you thinking about? And I'm like, well, you know, I walk out on the beach, I spend a lot of time on the beach, I go out on the beach and I see thousands of women on the beach with their Kindles and their iPads, and they're all, or just a hard copy book, and they're all reading these romance books. I'm like, you know, I've got this story in my head, why not my book? Why can't these people people be reading my book. So I've thought about doing it. It's not something that's going to take a priority right now, because right now hauntings, this haunting series is my priority. But there's a lot of other things on the back burner. I've got some synopses and actually full outlines that I've gotten developed, but they're going to have to take a back seat to the haunting series.
Wow, so many questions to ask. But because it's just your style of writing. I kind of see you like maybe, I don't know, 50 Shades of Grey kind of thing. But
that's actually what Mad Love is. Mad Love is the poetry version of 50 Shades.
Have you thought about writing some dark poetry?
I've actually written some. I just haven't published any. And I thought about having some of that darker stuff that I've written included in some of my books. I've written some things on some really dark stuff. I mean, I've written some things on what it feels like to be going through a depression and things like that. I think people, when you experience things, I think one of the reasons I like poetry is because it's an expression of the heart. I don't believe that you sit down and you with the intention to create poetry. I think poetry flows out of you. If it's good poetry, it should be flowing from you. And I think people are the people that are able to express their feelings become very good poets. I was doing a talk on writing, a workshop, and we were talking about poetry, and they said, well, who's your favorite poet? Who do you think the greatest poet was? And I'll tell you, the greatest poet of the 20th century was Prince. If you read the lyrics that he wrote, they're incredible. I think that Corey Taylor of Slipknot and Stone Sour, both of the bands, he has songs and the stuff that he writes is beautiful poetry. And if you read them, I'm very much into music. I'm a musician, but I like lyrics. I'm really impressed by lyricists, and because I'm obviously a word guy as a writer.
Right. And Corey Taylor actually has a few books out which I plan on getting, but he is an excellent lyricist, excellent writer. But I'm going to take a small break right now, so when we come back, we'll have a little bit more with James Baxter, and we're going to talk about Miss Elizabeth Florence when we come back. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Basement Files here on Para X Radio.
It's always time for the dead to shine in Hollywood. The legendary Dearly Departed Tours has stepped up their ghostly game by offering the Hollywood Ghosts and Legends Walking Tour. Dearly Departed has long been an orb of hope in the paranormal world, having been featured on television's Haunted History and Haunted Collector. Their terrible tales have been made infamous in Marla Brooks' The Ghosts of Hollywood books. The new Ghosts and Legends Tour is a 10-block, 70-minute dusk-time stroll down the boulevard of broken dreams. You'll be guided through the golden age of Hollywood and see where the unearthly Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney, and the calamitous Black Dahlia are still said to linger. You'll see Hollywood's Gothic hotels, legendary theaters, and restaurants, never forgetting their permanent occupants. No stranger to investigations, Dearly Departed Tours has first-hand knowledge of some of these hauntings. For details of the Hollywood Ghosts and Legends Walking Tour, find Dearly Departed Tours on Facebook, dearlydepartedtours.com, or call 1-855-600-DEAD.
Turn off the lights and turn on your imagination. You're listening to The Basement Files on Para X Radio.
Welcome back to The Basement Files. I'm talking with author James Baxter. So let's just delve into this, because I was reading it last night, and it is a story I had never read before in terms like this. It seemed to be okay. I don't know how to explain it. In Your Simply Horror Volume 1, Seeds of Nightmare, there's a story in there called The Kiss. And when I read it, I thought, oh man, it's going to be a love story, because the way you were describing how she was standing with the candles, and I thought it was a romantic thing. And then she says, be quiet, your wife will hear. Then I come to the part where she's done with her deed, and I find out that she's like a photographer.
Yeah, she's a post-mortem photographer. It's a period piece, so I don't know, post-mortem and post-mortem photography in the 16, 1700s, 1800s, they or 17, 1800s, they had to sit for a long period to do, to capture the images, and so the photographers would spend a lot of time with the subjects, and often would be the one to prepare the subjects in terms of makeup and all that. If you look at a lot of the historical, if you look at the old photographs and you see these pictures of kids that are sitting there, and there's one kid that's just kind of sitting there, looks like he's stiff, often those are a deceased child that's in that picture with the other children. And that's what they did when because we didn't have Olin Mills. You didn't just go down there and have family photos made. You typically only took these photos when someone died. Yeah. And so and I got the idea. I was telling you out there, I got the idea from watching or reading I saw a news story about a necro young lady who was arrested, and this was in modern times. This was like last year, and I kind of got the idea for that, so I kind of set it in a made it a period piece, and it's an interesting. And you said you thought it is romance. I mean, there is an element of romance in it. It is sick and demented romance, but it is romance.
Where do you get these ideas, especially in period pieces? I mean, I know you're a history buff, but where does that concept come from? I mean, I know you have a bit of reality, but geez, I was like,
I just honestly, it's if you read the works that are in the Simply Horror short story collection, most of those are real world horror, what I call real world horror. It's things that are terrifying because they're real. And you listen, necrophilia is real. It's something that happens even today. And so that's real world horror to me. There's another one in there called Dead Ringer. If you get a chance, you should probably read that one. It's another period piece, and it is, again, it's real world horror, and I enjoy that. Matter of fact, Dead Ringer is. I was going to say that a lot of my short stories, if you read my short stories, are very similar in style to stuff that you would read in Poe's collections. Especially Dead Ringer. Dead Ringer is a very similar story to Telltale Heart, and and it's about a guy who the police are interviewing, and as they interview him, you can watch the declining of his mind. He's going insane, and seems perfectly sane when they first start talking to him. So. I like real world horror. I like things that are scary because they're real, and so that's basically where those ideas come from.
Oh, that's incredible, because it threw me off for the first part when I read it, and then I was like, wow, we definitely need to go into depth with this, because
it's really. I told you before, The Kiss is actually probably one of my favorite short stories that I've written, and it's actually on. You can go on YouTube and Google Nightfall Radio. I think it's episode 5 of Nightfall Radio Show, and they did a dramatization of it on there, and it is being made into a film short for film festivals for 2018. So it's going to be pretty interesting, but it's one of my favorite things that I've written.
And like a lot of my author friends, all of them do write scripts for movie shorts. Is that something that you're interested in doing?
I am actually going to. I talked with a couple of people and that are involved in it, and one of them is a filmmaker that's a friend of mine, and I said, I would like the opportunity, especially since this is a short, because we're talking about something that's probably not going to be more than 11 minutes.
Right.
And I said I would like the opportunity to write the screenplay for this. Script writing is not something that I really want to do. It's not something that I don't have any ambition to be a screenwriter. I don't have any ambition to start writing scripts and trying to sell them for movies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But since this was a short story that I wrote, I would like the experience and the opportunity of writing one. And this would be a good opportunity for me because it's already in my head. I created this story, so I've already got an idea of how I would want it to go in the film short. But no, screenwriting is not something that I'm really have an ambition for.
I noticed also when you first started writing, was it in collaboration with other authors, or did you first start sending off your own pieces? Because I noticed that you were part of Amazing Paranormal Encounters in the Volume 3.
Yeah, that was a solo project. My first novel was a collaboration with a college friend of mine, a
Mm-hmm.
child. Actually, we grew up together,
Uh-huh.
and it was kind of we tell people all the time it was kind of an accident. We started writing what we thought was going to be a short story for our friends. All of the characters in that book are friends of ours. They're real people, they're real characters.
Uh-huh.
And so we started out writing a short story, and it kind of got out of hand and turned into a novel. And but no, I haven't always collaborated. I wrote in high school. I started writing short stories in high school, and I would type them up on my typewriter, and I would have one of my teachers would copy them, and I would hand them out, at school, and people would read my stories then. So I've always been, kind of writing on my own.
Mm-hmm.
The project with that first novel was just, like I said, it was just something that a buddy and I sat down and started writing.
That's awesome. Do you kind of have a writing style? Do you picture yourself more of a Clive Barker kind of writer? I mean, who author-wise, other than Edgar Allan Poe, do you think you have a writing style like?
I don't know that my style is like any of the contemporaries.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is that a lot of the stuff I write, and if you read Hauntings, you realize I write what we call very tightly. And when I say, when we refer to something as being tight, there's not a lot of frivolous stuff in the book. It reads like a movie. It's mainly action driven, and there's not a lot of, how you're reading a book sometimes, these books that are 400 or 500 pages long, that you go through this spell of 8-9 pages where you just, oh my God, I got to turn another page. And I've always wanted my style of writing, I've always wanted to be, I want to write every page so that you want to turn the page and read the next page. And so that's how I try to write. And I think that, honestly, that's how it comes across. I know that a lot of the people that have read a lot of the reviews that I've gotten on Hauntings have been really good, and they all said the same thing, that action-packed. Matter of fact, I had one critic that said that it was Indiana Jones meets The Exorcist, and that's what that's exactly that's what I want to capture. I wanted to capture that action-driven horror book.
That's awesome. Do you normally, do characters pop in your head when you're doing just like the most random thing?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, that's, I saw a meme the other day that said that writers are not one person. They're a bunch of people trying to be one person, and I think that's true. I think that I mean, they just come to me. I mean, it can be any kind of mundane activity that's going on, and I'll get an idea for a story. And you get so many that you forget them sometimes. You know, you forget your ideas, and they'll come to you later down the road. And I think that's how you know when you got a good one. I think some people will recommend that you write your ideas down so you don't forget them.
Mm.
But I really think that the really good ideas stick with you whether you write them down or not. They kind of resonate with you. And that's how you know that it's a good idea, because it never leaves you.
How long does it take you to write a story?
Right now, longer than I want. I mean, honestly, not long. I mean, I can sit down and write a short story when I'm writing in writing mode.
Mm-hmm.
Try to write a couple 3,000 words a day. If I'm not in writing mode, obviously, it's tougher to do. But I can write. I can if I'm working on a book, I can write a chapter a day easily. But you have to be, you know, you have to be in the mode to write that particular story, you know. And there are days that I don't have that hauntings in me, so I'll write something else. And but it's, I guess, you know, when you're a writer when you're a creative writer. It's very difficult to keep that focus on that one thing that you're working on. And I've frequently got more than one project that I'm working on at the time.
When we come back, I will talk to you a little bit more about your writing. Stay tuned. We're listening to Basement Files.
Your source for everything paranormal, Para X.
My name is Greg Bakken. I'm a writer, a producer, and a paranormal investigator. My favorite way of communicating with spirits is through using the spirit box, also known as a ghost box. I invite you to listen to me every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Central for interviews with people in the paranormal community and beyond. Plus, I will also include as much of my spirit box evidence as I can during my show.
My name is Greg. Can you say Greg? Can you say Jeff? Greg. Jeff.
Join me every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Central Time for Minnesota Ghost Box, only on Para X Radio.
Hi, this is Hollywood Haunt writer Marla Brooks, and you're listening to the Para X Radio Network.
The only place where they don't leave the light on. It's the Basement Files, heard exclusively on Para X Radio.
Welcome back. I'm talking to author James Baxter. The book covers, are they pictures that you took? Are they drawings?
The original cover for Hauntings, Pierce in the Darkness was actually a graphic image that my publisher at the time had found, and I liked it. It was creepy. It wasn't exactly what I had in mind, but I did like it, so we went with that. And then when I re-released Hauntings 1, I switched publishers, and I went with Brooklyn Books. And the new cover for Hauntings is what I really had, more what I had in mind. It's a cover of a graphic image of a house with Ezra LeBar walking out from it. And the Ezra LeBar image was an image that was sketched by Jennifer Snoddy, who's an artist and did a good job. And I kind of brushed it up a little bit. And most of those are just creepy graphic images that I've found that we can get a license to use. And the new cover, I don't know if you've seen the new cover for Interview with the Exorcist, it's really kind of creepy. It's a matter of fact, I can't stare at it. I can look at it, but I have to look away.
Is this the one with the person hanging upside down?
Yeah.
And giving you a smile?
Yeah, that's a pretty creepy cover.
Now, when you're writing books, do you have in your mind to catch the audience by the covers?
Oh, you have to, absolutely. I mean, it's so competitive. The writing market's so competitive, especially the horror market. You've got to have a good cover. You got to have something that when people are. Matter of fact, if you go on Amazon and look at the top sellers, most of the top sellers that are in the top 10 have very interesting covers. Now, they won't stay in the top 10 if the content doesn't match the cover. But I think that's what gets people to pick it up, and I think I believe once people pick up my books, they'll love them.
Well, I did. You did catch me on a couple of things. I was wondering about the covers because on the Simply Horror ones with the guy's face, I was wondering if it was taken from like one of your pictures, your personal pictures. Do you ever do that, or do you just like put your picture back?
I haven't used any kind of personal pictures. Most of them are things that I have in mind, and like on the Simply Horror, that was something I wanted to put something on the cover that was a little captivating, that would capture someone's attention, but I also wanted it to match one of the stories that was within the book. And there was actually a vampire story in Simply Horror, Seeds of Nightmares, and so we put I decided to go with a cover that went with that story. I would have loved to have had something from The Kiss on there, but I don't think that would have been as captivating, to draw people in. But I do think that most people that read, if you're a horror fan, most people that read that collection, I think The Kiss or Dead Ringer will be their favorite pieces from that book.
You mentioned that you had switched editors. Now, when you first started, did you go through publishing companies, or did you do the Amazon thing yourself?
No, the publishing company, and actually the very first publisher that I dealt with was Northwest Publishing Company. That was back in '95. The last one was Stallion Books. It was an experience. I mean, it was, but I wanted to have more control over my books, and I wanted to also have a little bit cut of royalties on the books, and so went with Brooklyn Books in the past 6 months. I think we switched over in January or February, and it's a competitive market. So much has changed in the publishing industry, and I know that listeners probably don't want to hear about the publishing industry, but the paradigm is so different now with technology, and everyone can digitally produce books, and which has made the electronic reading industry huge, and books on demand. I mean, a lot of the companies that you go with now, when you get your book published, Amazon, for instance, if you're on Amazon, when people order your hardback book, it's actually produced on demand. When they order one, they produce it and send it out. So it's not like back in the day, back in '95 when they had a publishing contract, it was for 30,000 book printings. They don't have that anymore. You don't print 30,000 books at a time or 10,000 books at a time. You print on demand now. So.
Wow, that's a drastic change. I realize that a lot of them go through Amazon, and they want to cut out the middleman, the publishers and the editors and all of those people, because a lot of writers I know want to have full control of their own writing styles and what they pick and choose. Is it difficult to let go of your babies when you write them?
I haven't had that experience. I'm sure it is. I haven't had that experience because even when I was with Stallion Books, I pretty much had control over what I wanted to do in the books. I did not, there were questions from the publisher. The Kiss, for instance, are you sure that you want to include the kiss in Simply Horror? Because it's a really different type of story.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of creepy. It's kind of disturbing. Is that something you want to include with these other horror stories? And I was like, absolutely. That's something. And so they would give me their opinion on why they wouldn't put it in there. But at the end of the day, it's my collection, and I want it in there. And so that's what happened. We went with it. And like I said, it turned out to be the best, I thought, the best story in the book. I mean, it's had the dramatization on the radio. It's got the film short thing going on. So I think that it did turn out to be a good decision to put it in there.
Are you planning to do I guess like an anthology sort of that type of story of necrophilia book?
No, I won't focus on. I don't have a great interest in necrophilia.
That's good.
I mean, it was just something that I saw the story, the modern day story, and came up with the idea for because I had actually been looking for. I had been talking with a friend of mine, and we just earlier that week that I saw that story, and we were talking about postmortem photography. We weren't talking about. Obviously necrophilia or anything. We were talking about postmortem photography and how cool it was, and the concept behind it, and how creepy it was that when they did postmortem photography, you look at these old photos, and some of those people are actually dead in those photos.
Yeah.
That they've got dressed up and sitting up, and they got propped up with a stick behind them. You can't see the stick, but they're propped up. So we were talking about postmortem photography. A few days later, I saw that story about the necrophilia girl, and so I kind of put the two together and went with a postmortem photography story about a necrophiliac.
Right. That was disturbing when I read it, though. Now, on your books, you have on there best-selling author. Have you gone to any cons, or do you go book signing at like Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that?
I've been invited to some. I have not gone to them. I've actually been invited to one down in Florida in September. I think 20 years ago, I would have probably been all over the whole book signing and going to all of the events and everything. I know that it needs to be done to a certain level because it's PR. But I'm really not that much interested in the PR. I just want the books to sell, And I mean, I don't really care. I couldn't care less whether somebody said, hey, I want people to read my books and enjoy them. I think people ask me all the time, what makes a successful author? How do you define success? And I think success as an author is writing something that resonates with people. I don't think it has to do with book sales. I don't think it has to do with how popular you may or may not be as a writer. I think it has to do with someone sitting down and reading the book, and when they're finished with it, saying, man, that was really cool. And I think that's what makes you successful.
When you read what you write and you're happy with it, do you put it out, or do you have your genre of audience in mind when you're reading it and writing it? Or
most of the stuff I write falls in line with the genre anyway. I mean, I've got that horror element, in my mind, and that's pretty much what I stick with. There's some things that interest me that I haven't written a lot about that I would like to, but I don't. Now, when I write, I do think of the reader, though. Like I said, I mentioned writing a page and wanting the reader to read the next page. Mm-hmm. It really goes down to paragraphs. Write every paragraph where you want the reader to read the next paragraph. So I do write with the reader in mind. Sometimes that means that I have to change things because, I'll write something and say, well, I don't know if that was really clear enough. A Haunting is one, for instance. What gave me the idea for doing the 1.5 interview with The Exorcist was I didn't want. There's some things about exorcism rites and that the average layman they don't understand.
Right.
And I didn't want to spoon feed that to the reader. I just don't like that kind of style of writing. I don't want to spoon feed something in the book. So what I did was I wrote Interview with the Exorcist to follow up to the book So if the people did have those questions, they're answered in that book, and that's a very short read. It's basically like a short story.
Right.
But that prevented me from, or enabled me to write Hauntings 1 without spoon feeding a lot of that information to the reader. And I think, honestly, when people read Interview with the Exorcist, it's going to make them want to read Hauntings 2 when it comes out. Hauntings 2 is going to be a very interesting story. Matter of fact, hoping that it'll be out next week. But there's some rewrites going on right now.
So what pays the bills? I mean, does your writing pay the bills, or do you have another actual job?
Yeah, I mean, writing and my career. Obviously, I still own the sports company, the SC Varsity LLC, and it's but the writing is what I want to do.
So
full time. That's the focus right now.
Right, and I thought I read somewhere that you have your own publishing company.
Yeah, well, actually, Brooklyn Books is our own company.
Ah.
Yeah, when I left Stellium, it was to start Brooklyn Books, and so we've got some interesting people that we're working with. It's a lot different. I mean, and that's one of the reasons it's kind of pushed some of my writing back is dealing with writers. It's not something that I do have experience as a publisher because my sports company I'm a publisher. So I've already owned, South Carolina Varsity, which is a publishing company. But dealing, with writers is different. Never had to deal with them before from this side of the table. But I've had a chance to talk to some interesting people. Amazed at how many people have contacted us with children's books, and which is something that I've got an interest in as well.
Like an R.L. Stine kind of thing?
No, a couple of the people that I've taught with have, they're more lesson teaching type books for kids.
Oh.
Now, for my own, yes, more of an R.L. Stine type of thing, because I would stay in that horror genre. I just don't want it to be. You have to be careful when you're writing for children and writing for young adults that you don't get too cheesy, with the horror. It's that fine line. You don't want to be too cheesy, but you also don't want to be so scary that the parents are saying, "Oh no, you're not reading that."
Right. Wow, that's awesome. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to talk with me about your stories, your books, and you, basically.
I appreciate you having me on.
You're absolutely welcome, and when you write your new book, I want you back on.
Okay, I'll we'll come on and chat some more about the writing industry.
That would be awesome. But for now, I want to thank everybody for listening, hanging out with the best-selling author, James Baxter. Go read his books. You can find them on Amazon. Where else can people find your books at?
Books A Million and Barnes & Noble both have them available.
Awesome.
If they're not in that particular store that the people go in, they can order them because they are in their catalogs.
Awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. You guys have a great weekend. I'll see you next Friday. Be safe, and as always, in the memory of Tracy Frost, we will see you on the other side. Thank you, James, for joining in. Good night, everybody. Thank you for listening to The Basement Files. Royalty-free music is by Kevin MacLeod and Ben Sound.
There are things that are unexplained, things that linger along the edges of reality. Often, they leave trails to follow, many of which lead to darkened rooms and stairways that can take you, if you dare, only to one place: The Basement Files.
There's a darkness in the hallway. Voices that seem to come from nowhere. Alone at night, there is a feeling that something or someone is near. Where can you go? Who can you turn to? Para-X Radio and the all-new Para-X Vision can help. Our knowledgeable host and expert guest can help you find some answers and take a glimpse into the unknown. X Radio and Para-X Vision. Programming for the open mind.
Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making Para-X part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal. Para-X.